there so far.
Is that the two that are out there? So again, that's where you're going to want to go to playlist CST.163 under the EMCC Computer Science channel. That answer your question, Anna? All right.
Thank you.
And again, if you want to watch what we're doing, either in class or out, just you can pop up any of these. You may have to install Zoom, but it's installed really quickly, so that when we get to the point where we're walking you through some of the homework assignments, then you'll be able to do that. I've gotten, I think, 2 of the assignments corrected for you, and I'll try to get another, couple of them. Now, if you look at the first one, kind of looks like everybody who's planning on turning it in has turned it in. And the same thing with the second one, which is why I went ahead and corrected those. Then you look at the next one, and the number of people peter off. Yes.
Okay, so regarding grading of these, are they all graded as the same? Because I noticed like chapter 7 is very, very long. And like if they're all graded the same, it's not
Your microphone.
Matter necessarily. Because they're all.
We'll assume he's there.
Hello?
Hey, Tom.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, I'm in class. Be careful with your microphone. You're giving us a lot of static. Sounds like you're bumping it around.
Let me see.
There is a push to talk option in the settings.
Yeah. You can set it to push to talk, or just mute yourself and unmute. Anyway.
What's the meeting
I'll
ID?
just mute myself.
Okay. So I'm sorry, Jen. What was your question? Was
so are they all graded the same?
Yeah. For the most part, they're all worth 10 points.
Okay.
When I don't remember. I mean, you're right. What is it, chapter
7 is extremely long.
Yeah. And I'll take a look at that. I mean, I think it's just 10 points.
Yeah.
So basically what happens is, if we have,
One doesn't punch down.
are we stopping at 7 or is this still the same?
It ends at 7 for this.
So in theory, homework is going to equal 7 points. And you're going to have so many points out of 70. And that'll equal the percentage you've graded. 56% is your homework. Now, if you're having issues with it, you come see me and I'm happy to work with you. If you have one, it's like, oh man, I got a 40 on my homework for chapter 5 or something like that. I tried and I couldn't get it to work. You reopen it and I'll give it another chance because I think I know what I did wrong. Off you go. And we'll just do that. And I'll try to remember to knock off a couple points, but not a lot. I want you to succeed. I want you to gain the skills that are covered in the class. I was talking to
How are you grading?
how do I grade them?
I was going to say, since I have a 94 and I don't know where I lost points.
Yeah, that's true. I'm seeing something on here. I'm like, I want at least points.
So let's just say,
I don't even know which one.
let's say, here's your document, and you were supposed to do, a title at the top, and you're supposed to do a paragraph with a hanging, or not a hanging, with an indent on the first one. Sorry, go all the way across. And you're supposed to do, one of them had 1.2 line spacing. You're supposed to indent, a particular section on another one. You're supposed to put down, a title and an author. So there's a bunch of different characteristics that make up this one assignment. Usually there's anywhere between, I think the lightest ones probably have to do about 10 things. And the heaviest ones, project-wise, might have a lot more than that. And so when I look at all of the things that you could, exceed at, well, maybe you forgot to make this, a size 14 full font. You're going to cost you a couple of points. We're stuck with a couple of problems here. It takes me a long time to grade these, just like it takes you a long time to make them in the first place. The way that it's easy for a person like me to give you feedback is if it was printed out and I write on it and give it back. It's actually a lot quicker that way than me looking at your file and then having the only way for me to give you feedback is to go back into you as a user for that assignment, open up the comment box, and there's only one comment box for an entire chapter. So there's any comments that would go for project 1, 2, 3, and 4. I've got to put it all into that one comment box, and it drives me nuts, as I'm sure it would drive anybody. Yes, Jeff?
What if we just switched over like Google Docs or something?
Oh, wouldn't that be nice?
Except we're not learning Google Docs.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, you can still submit
not our
through Google
class.
Docs.
Well, we can't really have this through EMCC.
Right, but you can link it through Google Docs.
Yeah. Next semester, one of these, I know. I've been pushing for Google Docs, the last 6 years. Not here, but wherever I've been. Because it's a lot easier to do stuff when you're working in between files.
So a couple points, like we had a problem with that picture.
Yep.
That you probably heard us talking about,
Right.
and deleting the name
Yep.
underneath, or it's like that, whenever it says that there is,
The photo
there is
frame.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So would it be like a couple points?
Well,
And what do we need to do?
Well, and some of you've gotten comments from it. If there's 10 points out of a homework assignment and you got 9, I take a couple points off for whatever got missed, and I know it's not the kind of feedback you want. What I was going to do is going to run through the files today, kind of show you what it should look like. If you got something significant off, I tried to go into the comments and let you know what was missing. Does that make sense?
Well, but when you put the size of the image, that small image, it does not, like, you put 1 inch,
Yep.
but it does not work and we put like 1.3 or 1.6.
I can show you how to do that.
Okay,
We'll know where you sit in the sizing,
right.
and you type, and it said type in 1, hit enter.
Yep.
When you hit enter, it automatically jumped to 1.4 because it realized it was too small. So then if you manually set it down to 1, you kept clicking down, the image was that big.
Yeah, I tried that.
There's a text box that was compressing, and you couldn't get rid of the text box.
All right.
But you can get rid of the text in the text box. The box itself, you can get rid of.
So, let me see.
I'll have to take a look. Jim.
So Word on Mac is significantly different layout than on PC, and the book goes by easily. So should I just try and get it as close as possible with the layout that I have, or?
Yeah, so we have that problem, and we have students in here and in my other class that I teach. So there's, Office 2016. That's what the course is actually teaching. But some of you have, what version are you running?
I'm running 365.
Yeah, there's Office 365. There's Office Online, which is different. In my home desk, I'm running Office 2010. It's 2013, 2011. There's Office for Mac. And the problem is there are going to be times when you have to come as close as you can. I usually, if you've got an issue, and we'll things to do today, right? Comments. Right. So how you can insert comments to me so they don't count, you don't want it to be just typing in the document. but you want to let me know, my version doesn't have the template or the style that you're asking for, so I did the best I could. I'm okay with that. I mean, it'd be really nice if we're all using the same platform because it would be easier on me. So that's one thing we're going to take a look at. It doesn't let me add comments to the files that you have. You can go back in and look at the files you submitted. You can actually open them up directly from my EMCC. But I can't add files. The only way for me to send you a comment is to use that one comment box per assignment. And since the assignments have projects 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 7, I literally, for each of you, would have to go into the comment box, which is separate from, it's a whole other program, and go in and say, okay, file 1, here's the comments, and I have to type it all out. That process takes a lot longer. If any of you have ever corrected a paper, it's just right on the paper as you're going through, margin wrong, this wrong, and it's so much quicker. Because if I have to tell you the margin, the right margin on paragraph 3, second page is off by an inch, that's a lot more than just writing margin, right on the page. And it may not seem like a lot, but I've got 32 students taking this class in one of 2 different sessions. And you've got, you just turn in, 5 assignments, 5 files per assignment. Now I've got to look through 5 times that many. So I'm trying to reserve my comments for things where it seemed like it was a fairly major, I missed the boat kind of thing, rather than that. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to go in, I'm going to open some of the files up, show you what they would look like. And that way you can go back and look if you want. Oh, here's the guy that broke it all.
One more thing. I accidentally, when I posted, I put the note that like project 2A to 2.
Yep.
Oh, 2F, I believe. Oh, 2.
Right.
No, I put in project 2A to 2B, but there is project 2D. It's just I forgot to. I missed it.
Right.
I mean, it's all done. It's just.
So whatever chapter you're in, I'm just making this up. Chapter 3, project 2. The only file you should be uploading would be the last of that section. So whether 2E or whatever it happens to be, except for chapter 6, which is just coming up, where we're going to talk about how that's different.
Chapter 5, section project 5 had 2 that you had to upload as well.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Which is why you can upload as many files as you want. Couple of things that I did notice, and it wasn't just one person, and it could have even been in my other class. When you're doing a file, and it's goes A, and then it goes B, and then it goes C, and it has you keep working on the section that was before it. Don't keep amending your file with the updated version. So I had a couple of people who turned in like duplicates in one document. So here was what it looked like as step 1. Next page it was step 2. Next page it was step 3. Next page was step 4. I just want to see the last page.
You just want to see a final product.
I want to see the final product. Now, naming conventions. What's the naming convention that we're using?
Chapter 5.
So the chapter number.
Your first, last name.
Yep, file name, which whatever it was,
Oh, you should have it for.
and last name.
Oh, you want just the last name?
I'm here to get there.
Yes.
In the header, I thought you wanted.
Because I've been putting my first and last name.
Well, so here's what makes it hard. Again, I'm living with the system that's given to me as well. Google Docs would be really nice if I could use it. Is that when you're all done, I have to download it and the system automatically zips it into one big file. And then I have to unzip that file into a new directory on my computer. And then I have to go through, if you think about it, each one of you gets your own folder. So chapter 3 is going to have one folder for each of you, and inside of each of those folders is all the files that you're going to be using. Which means that for me to look at the first file, they're in all of your different folders. I search for those based on the file name, so that I get all of the, comp terms all at once, and I can open them, and go through them. If you change the name of it, or you don't put your last name on there, then I get this long list of comp term files,
I had no idea who's.
and 3 of them have no name on them. And so I have to open them and then go backwards in the file settings to see what folder they're in, and then I'll see that they're in, Joseph's folder or Michael's or whatever. And it just adds a lot of time to me when all you have to do is leave the file name just the way it started and add your last name. And by the way, this is not
That's all.
not putting it on the end of it, so put it on the end. Couple of people got knocked off a point because they didn't do that. I tried to be fair about that.
Not off point.
Huh?
I used an underscore for mine.
Well, that would probably be all right too.
So you just want the file to be named just like that?
Yeah.
Okay, because how I'm putting it is chapter -5 file name, then my first and last name, and I'll write 1F or 2F behind it.
You're the only one in here with your name. So, I haven't been dinging you for it. The only people I've
No,
dinged you for, doesn't sound right. Is if this part was missing.
okay. The reason why I asked is because I want to know what your format is so that I can work it.
Yep. And this is what it says in the syllabus and what we said at the beginning of the class. So just that, chapter, file name, last name. Now, if for some reason, like in chapter 7, it asks you to, or chapter 6, it asks you to do a couple of this, iterations for both B and D or something, then you can add the B and the D right, at the end of the file. Luckily, when I do a search, just don't change the file name, because that's what adds a lot of time for me. Because I've only got 5 comp terms, files showing up when I search for it, but there were 11 people that turned it in. What happened to them? And then you go back into the people you're missing, and it says, oh, well, comp terms became comp space terms, or comp underscore terms, or computer terms, or whatever else. So now I can't search for it, and it slows it down on my end.
So when we do the header, when we do our name in the header, do you want just last name or first?
But, you can do whatever you want up there. That helps me visually. If you do this is probably the biggest thing. I've gotten better at doing, at sorting it through this way. It's not bad to have it there. It's a nice visual little reminder. Of course, as we move on, there's a number of things now that will use the header between now and the end of the.
I only say it because it said in the EMCC portal that that's what you wanted. Yeah. Like, oh, okay, I don't remember that, but all right.
I'm not dinging anybody for that. If you don't know what that means, that just means taking a couple points. Or, you're getting your annual review at work and they ding you for something because, I don't know, you kept showing up late at work or something like that. Questions?
Hey, Tom,
Yes.
can you zoom in closer to the whiteboard?
No. One moment.
That would be a negative.
Yeah, red.
How's that, Tom?
Now you're like right on the wall. So
I'm being mean.
you just want to pick on me because I share your name.
Well, yeah, it's annoying because where it is totally there. How's that?
That's awesome.
All right, let me go ahead and pull Word up, and we'll run through some of the types of things that we've been seeing on the homework.
And I pulled up that image so you can see what.
Yeah, this is what mine looked like.
Yeah.
I was actually.
Which homework though? Which one?
The training project, that's what
The one where they had to put the graphics in.
Yeah, that's a,
You guys must have downloaded a different picture.
no, it's the right picture.
Right, but I mean, the picture I downloaded didn't have a text box or anything attached to it.
That's weird, yeah.
So,
Maybe
because
we
there
did
was
the
like
wrong
8 of those pictures when
The
I
same
searched.
pictures?
Yeah.
I just clicked the one that was on the top of the screen, or the top of the area.
Mhm. That's what, the one I chose the one that was like on the very first.
But I may have used a different search engine.
Right.
I use Bing.
I use Bing to do that. Yeah, we're doing. But there were more than one choice. It was more than one choice when I did my search.
Let me see, what was the name of the picture that we were in Australia, something?
Are you at the function?
It's like us.
First thing I don't even know what I just do this. And you're going to want to set it to I don't know what to do with this. It'll have to be within the same. Kind of.
Okay, it didn't say anything about that.
No, well, and normally it would be. So I'm not sure why it's different. You can also go in here.
See, when did we do that earlier? On my desktop version.
Because I am the master.
Can you show me how to do that too?
All right, well, let me go pull it up so people online can see it too. Tom Farron raised his hand. What was it, Tom?
Right. It was about the whiteboard zooming in.
Yeah, oh, okay, so no.
So it's not supposed to look like this.
No, and well, and I'll see if I can repeat it so I can show everybody what you look
Oh,
at.
okay.
So we're in Word, we're gonna open up gotta share my screen.
Well, what was that name of that one again?
More than territory, Australia, I have the name there.
What was the name of the document?
Well, the document was the name of that document. That is
Training.
Oh,
yeah.
You have to name it yourself. You have to,
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
a blank one.
That's what you did from scratch.
Why can't I find?
Share my screen.
Yeah,
I also kind of
Too many
got
people.
confused with it, like deleting the background.
hold on.
Oh yeah, the image cropping the image background didn't work either when we had to delete the background.
So it deleted the background, but like
Okay,
there
It
were.
wouldn't let me crop it properly.
These guys,
give me a second.
Yeah, I didn't get a text box. Because it's,
I can see it work better.
yeah.
What is my background? There is something
Okay,
extremely simple on that.
I think he said in there how to take the text box out.
Yeah, he just did it.
Yeah.
He's gonna show us again, so that everybody can see.
Right, that's the goal.
Yeah, that thing too.
I just saw another thing pop up.
There we go. So what we want to do is complete a chat. Come on, let's listen. This classic, so it's the classic. It goes-
And I keep seeing my battery. Keep seeing my battery low.
All right, can you all see my desktop now? Yeah.
Yeah.
So here we go, we got Word open. Hallelujah. So in Word, let's start with this. We got this question, which was in chapter 5, right? Which was the whole issue about working with a file. What was the file that we're going to work with? Because was it one that we?
It was when you had to do yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, it's the Ululu or whatever.
Yeah. That would be it.
ULULU or something like that.
Yep, you got it.
See the right one?
Yeah, you already went past it, I think.
This one?
Yes.
Well, that
Oh,
one,
yeah, that's right. We had
that
to
one,
crop it.
that picture was in the downloads that you
Yeah,
put
the
up on
handout.
my
Right.
MCC.
Right. I'm trying to be more.
Jeff, did you do something? Okay.
So I think that an issue I ran into with this was when it told us to remove background to get rid of the sky.
Yep.
It's supposed to pop up with the lines that you can move to adjust what gets removed.
Right.
On mine, I tried it 6 different ways on Sunday, and those lines never popped up, and I tried adjusting every setting I could find. So I couldn't select to just get rid of the sky, and it would just make it so it was just the rock.
All
It
right.
wouldn't keep the foreground.
Right. So what it should do, let's see if it'll do it on this one, is whenever you select a picture, you'll notice up on the main menu, you have the picture tool, which is not there if you're not selected on it. See it? No, it is. There. Get off of it. There we go. So down in the text, you'll notice up at the menu bar at the top, there's nothing for pictures. Click the picture, and now I have it. Go to Format. And this is where the very first thing says Remove Background.
Yep.
Hit Remove Background, and I get this.
Yeah, so that box did not pop up, the inner box.
What are you running?
Windows 10, Office 365,
But
on
we,
full desktop.
but we also changed we cropped it and we changed the colors. The sky was not even like there.
Yeah, well, let me show you the first set of problems people have with this. For whatever reason, it just pops in the middle. And I don't know if it uses an algorithm or it just says, start those lines in. And the first thing you should do is push them out to the edges. Of course, that's not going to work.
For some reason on my thing,
Yeah,
365.
no, hey, there we go. Get the sky.
Yeah, for some reason on my 365, I couldn't do that. It wouldn't let me.
Yeah.
It like gave something else by like default or something.
Yeah, it gave me a marker saying, oh, what do you want to keep or get rid of? And I couldn't select what I wanted to be shaded pink to get rid of.
Oh, I couldn't
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
All right.
So it sounds like a lot of us have that issue.
And then That may be a 360.
That was me, sorry.
Mute.
I just,
Yeah. You can get it louder. So I'm not sure about 365. I'd have to sit down with 365 and see if that's, not all versions of of Office have all the features.
Like when I clicked the delete the background, it just deleted it
Okay.
without even choosing the.
yeah, all I got left
Yeah.
with was the rock.
Yeah, that's what I got. I got the rock, and that's it.
Okay, somebody needs to mute their mic. Take your back.
Hello?
Sorry, Tom, can you hear us?
He thinks it's on his end. So I was like, I can't hear
It was
you.
supposed to be on his end.
Well, last Tuesday, I'm like, I can't hear you.
Well, that was because we were having microphone issues with these.
Yeah, and I was
All right.
thinking that it's all my fault.
Hopefully Tom can hear us now, but if not, somebody stand up in the front and do hand puppets. No Joseph, no William.
We're good now.
Okay, so you've got an image there. I don't care what the image is. First of all, you're going to be limited. Some images will not lend themselves to a moving background. If the background is too complex, too many colors, the colors are too close to the things you're trying to keep. Like, imagine you've got a dark blue sky above a dark blue ocean, and you're trying to take away the background being the dark blue sky. Guess what? It's going to be difficult to get it to take one without starting to get erosion of the one you want to keep. What you're seeing here is erosion around the edges, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the best of this. And I can, oops. I can move this up a little bit. Nope, I don't want that. Bottom. All right, so this is pretty close to what we want. And I'm going to go ahead and say, sure, I'm going to click out of it, and that'll enforce the background. So now I have that.
Beautiful.
It's not what I'm going to finish with. So I'm going to click on it. I'm going to go and put a border in. So I'm going to go up to, I think the share got switched back around.
I can see it.
No, I know, it's just really delayed. Oh, I know why, because I'm looking at the wrong screen. So there's a couple of things with this image. Notice how there's a reflection down below. I don't want that, so I'm going to go up to Format and Simple Frame White. There we go. I now have a frame around this. It's actually more than I want. Let me.
Computers. Voice back. It's cold.
I'm looking for the no picture.
Probably have to go to the more
Yep. Oh yeah, that's good behind here. So I'm back to just the plain old image. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do two things. One is I'm going to just go and put a simple picture border. Go up here to picture borders under picture styles. And I'm just going to select the black border, just so I can visually see where my picture is. Now I'm going to click on it. And what I want to do is I want to crop this. I want to crop away that eroded part at the bottom, and I want to bring it in on the right where I've got a blank space that was eroded by the background clearing as well. And all I have to do is do a right mouse click, and there's crop. It's one of the tools. And notice I get these little black, I'm going to drag this in a little bit, and drag this up a little bit till all of that's gone. And I'm done. So there I now have, oops, I just noticed I've got a little bit on the left side as well. So I've now gotten rid of all of the background. Make sense? So now we wanted to also add that territory, and so I'm going to insert picture online. What was it called?
Northern Territory, Australia.
And
First one.
this one. Insert. Now, of course, mine doesn't do it with the.
Yep, mine did the same thing.
All right, so let me see if I can
Try double clicking on it instead of saying insert. That's the only other thing I can think of.
well, and again, it may be the difference between 365 and 2016.
Yeah.
Search picture online. Not muted, Tom.
Somebody's having the back of their microphone.
All right. Well,
Northern.
okay, sorry.
Try double clicking on it, maybe?
Yeah, just double clicking just selects it and deselects it.
Oh, okay. On Office 365, that automatically
It
inserts it.
automatically,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right.
No
So
problem.
what they were
So
getting.
now it works.
Well, here, let me insert a caption.
Please. Thank you.
Pretty sure he's using his phone.
So let's see, where's captions? Well, picture caption. Insert.
Wait, is Tom's different than ours?
So,
I think his picture's different.
let's just say I want to put a caption on this. Northern Territories. And you'll notice I now have, two different components. It's not what you were seeing.
Oh, shoot.
So what they were seeing was this. They had a picture box.
With a text box locked in it.
Well, so here's your picture. And here was the license information. So this was a license summary. All inside one larger box. So this is true of any of the Windows, PowerPoint, whatever. If you select this box, and I mean the line on that box, you'll get the little markers that show up on the corners and on the sides, which is different than if you were to select inside the picture. So you're selecting the entire object. Same thing down here. I can select that entire object inside of a larger object. And so what I did with yours is I selected this box right here, not by clicking inside of it, but by clicking the actual edge. Once that was highlighted, I hit the delete button, it was gone.
I can't tell you how many times I've tried that on my desktop.
Yeah.
It just
I
wouldn't go.
had the same issue. I kept doing it, and then I ended up deleting the information, but keeping the picture and keeping the box in there.
I do not know.
So yeah, that's why mine's gonna look funky.
Pixie
Same
dust,
as
you
yours.
know, we have better pixie dust here.
Yeah.
So this is really three different objects, and you can treat it as three different. If I highlight this outer one, the entire thing should delete. If I highlighted the picture should delete. This text box, the text box, which is different than what I've got there, which is a picture with a caption. And the only way to take away the caption would be to remove the caption, because it's actually attached to the picture. I know that I don't even know what the term for it is. So this was embedded at the time of download as an associated file that went with this kind of thing, versus a caption, which is in Microsoft, is a thing that you can attach to a chart, a picture, even you can put a caption under a text box. Why? I'm not sure, but
Sort of sweet.
yeah, you know, you could. So that's just one thing to look at. It wasn't working for you until I showed up, and then it worked, and curses were heard all around the world. So but let's look at it right here. So we've got this. We need to put this up on top of this other image. We can't just drag it and put it up here, because it, oh look, it actually, fine, be that way. In order to get this to go on top of the other picture, I have to change its wrap, text wrapping behavior. And I can do that just by doing a right mouse click, going down to wrap text, and I'm going to put in front of text. And even though it's being put in front of a picture, it's being put in front of anything else. And it can have a hierarchy. So you can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different things. They don't show you the hierarchy in terms of what's in front, what's in back. But just keep in mind that they can have that. And so I'm going to drag this wherever I want it, put it over here. I can now make it larger or smaller. And I know that wasn't what you're doing, but we were supposed to set it to 1 inch wide, right?
Tall.
1 inch tall. So if I click on this, and that goes to Picture Tools format, and over here on size, I'm going to change this to 1 inch tall. I now need to, I'm going to just use the arrow keys and move it back into my box. I'm happy. That would be good. If this had a border, I'd want to go in and delete the border, because obviously that, you know, it's not what I want.
So happy this works perfectly in class.
I know. You know, I pay good money to have it work, you know, like it does. We're sitting in a room that doesn't have the video working, so sometimes it does. The same thing goes for, I've actually got 2 options. Oops, sorry. I forget, you know, the Northern Territories. Yeah, what's the role Tom Selleck played? quickly,
Quickly down under.
yes, quickly get together.
I haven't seen that forever.
Is June 23rd. Now, so here we have something that we want to also be up in there. Well, I can't take text by itself and drop it on top of a picture. It's not an object. It's text within the object of the page. So I need to have this inside an object. What's the object I'm going to use?
Text box.
A text box is the most likely one. So I'm going to just cut this for now, and I'm going to go in and insert a text box. Simple text box. And now, because it's already highlighted, Control V, and that's in there. Still can't drop this up and put it on top of it. So what I need to do is I need to go in. You'll notice this now has its own format, but I'm just going to do a right mouse click and go to wrap text in front of text and drag it up here. And as with Windows and in PowerPoint, if you're dead center, or, well, should do it vertically, there we go. It'll give you that little marker line that says you're where you belong. So I'm gonna let go. While this is highlighted, because I've got the little circles in all the corners and all the ordinals, I'm just gonna go over to Home, and I'm just gonna center it. I'm going to maybe make it a little bigger. You can bold it. Do whatever I want to, just like you would in any Word document. And the only thing that I still want to do is, I don't like the border on it. So if I want to remove the border, I need to click it, go up to the format, and shape outline, and go to no outline. It's just pretty close to what they had to do in the,
Yeah.
except for the problems that you were running into. So what I want to do, though, I'm going to try one more thing, because it's also, how many of you have played with the watermarks at all?
Now an exercise that had no water.
Yep.
Yeah, let's do
But they didn't have you do a picture watermark, did they?
No, just text.
So let's try a picture watermark. I'm just going to go down and start a new page. It'll apply to all the pages, but I just figured I'd do it here. I need to go, and I'm going to I'm going to go to images. And I'm going to put in see if we can't find that. I don't know. I like this picture. We'll try this one. But I'm going to open it, and I'm just going to save it. Save. Now, there's save link as, and there's save image as. And I want to save the image. I'm just going to drop it on my desktop. Save it. It's going to be a JPEG file. Get back out of here. Oop. And what I'm going to do is we're going to go to design, because that's the place where you can do watermarks. I'm going to go to watermarks. I'm going to click custom watermark. And this time I'm going to pick a picture. Select the picture from a file on my desktop. Hey, there it is. Insert. Now, notice there's, I can automatically scale it. I can also do a washout, which you definitely want to do, because otherwise it's going to be like dropping a picture right in the middle of your document. Really have to read over it. So we're going to wash it out. And apply. a little too washed out. You can't even see it, can you?
Barely.
There, let me go back, watermark.
Okay, it's come up a little bit.
Yeah,
It's there, it's so slow.
well, that's, try without the washout. Yeah, so you don't want that. Although that would give you an idea of what it would look like with the different zoom in and zoom out. I think this was a landscape-oriented picture that we're putting on a portrait, so it would probably be better to find a portrait so that it would be easier to fill the whole page without having any bars at the top or the bottom. Anybody want to know a different way to do this and get the same effect without it being watermark and get better control over it?
Photoshop.
No, well, you could do that. Well, that's true. You can always take the image. So if we're looking at this image right here, and I hit close, it is washed out somewhat, isn't it? But it's still pretty dark. And yet if I hit washout, it became almost like it wasn't there. One of the other things I can do if I have a paint program, Photoshop, Paint Shop Pro, whatever it happens to be, is I can pre-wash out the picture to whatever gradient I want and then let it go. And then put it in there as a regular picture without washing it out. And it'll be a combination, so I've already washed it out some. The part within Word that lets me put a watermark lets me do that. Watermarks are more useful if they work than having a picture as a background. Because a watermark goes all the way to the edges. Pictures can't go, well, if you insert a picture, it doesn't really go all the way to the end. But let's try that. I'm going to get rid of the watermark. Custom watermark, no watermark. Hold on. I'm also going to zoom out a little bit so we can see a whole page. And now what I'm going to do is go right back to design, page color. I'm going to go to more colors. It doesn't. I take that back. Insert pictures. So we're going to just make this nice and big. I'm going to wrap it so that it's free floating. So there, I now have the entire picture the entire page with a picture on top of it. It is not it's not a background on the page, and it's not a watermark. It's just another object. If I want to type on top of it, before I'm ready, I have to move it to the back, which I can do by just clicking on it and saying wrap text behind text. And I just moved it to the back of the page. And now I can put a text box, so I can go ahead and type right on top of it. But let's wash it out first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here, see which one. Colors. Oh, didn't want that. Oh, goodness. Fine, I'm just going to go with that. So it's a washed out black and white. But you can do that with pictures. Should be able to set their density and their color. I just picked one that was fairly easy to find. I haven't used it that much lately, but I can now treat this as a background. I would not do this every day, but maybe I'm making a brochure and I really want the background image to be this. And so I can wash it out. There should be a slider there someplace that lets me wash it out anywhere from 0, meaning it's gone, to 100%, meaning it's all there. You know, and just by sliding that, you see it get darker and lighter and darker and lighter. And now I can just type on this. I can type on this page. So it behaves the same as having a picture watermark. It's just one more way to do it. Totally aside, because it didn't ask me to do that, but I can't tell you how many flyers and brochures I've done and things like this are sometimes the easier way to do it. Questions? Joseph, question? Nothing. Let me make sure. I know we've got a few more people online than I thought I had, so or is it, they might be in this one too. Let's see. Just want to make sure we're not missing anybody. Devin's not here, right? And Michael never came in, right? You're in class. All right, so no surprises. So if we looked at, what chapter do you want to look at? We can look at 5, the one that we just did. We can look at 6, the one that's coming up. The one that's coming up. Okay, I can do that. So one of the things about chapter 6 is that it asks a lot of the chapters about things you can't turn in. It's got you creating a directory, moving a directory, creating files, copying files, moving files. I'm not going to look on your computers in order to assess if you can do that. If you're having a hard time with it, just come see me. I'll make sure that you know how to do that. I can show you, and I will on the screen in just a minute, but there's nothing to turn in. The second half of that chapter 6, is about printing. So this is the one time this semester that I can think of where you're going to print it out and bring me in a printout. There's only 2 ways to do this assignment, and that's the way we're going to go with. The other way is to save it as a PDF when you go to print it. And I'll show you how to do that if you're not familiar with that. It's a really good tool to have, but I don't want to do both. Yes?
Go ahead. Color or black and white?
Black and white's fine.
Okay, because I got a printer that'll do both.
Yeah, no, I mean, unless you have, I've got a really nice printer up in Orono that's only 7 cents a copy for color, which is about as good as you can get. And if you have an inkjet color printer, it's like,
Yeah, I went to Staples and bought just a giant printer. It's like this big.
Yeah.
That's it.
If you feel a need to print in color to justify its existence, feel free to do that. But black and white's fine.
Okay.
So
If you print here at the school, you're pretty much only going to get black.
yes, yeah. And the purpose of this, it's mostly doing mailing labels, address lists, setting up an envelope. If you go to print an envelope, you don't need to print it on an envelope. You just are going to print it on a piece of paper, and you'll see. I'm going to show it in landscape because that's usually the way it'll come out. So here's your piece of paper, and it'll have a return address and a delivery address on it. It doesn't give you this little border like this showing that that's the envelope, but I'll know what it is. And the whole goal was to see whether or not you can set up an envelope to print. If you got a printer that prints envelopes, you got some envelopes, feel free to do that. Let's go back though. So the first part of the chapter talks about, I'll close out of this for a minute. We're just going to go and open up file directory after, or file explorer on the Windows machine is down at the bottom. I don't care whether or not you're in Google, Google Drive or on File Explorer on Windows, or what does Apple use?
Finder.
That every computer in the world's got a file structure and a directory structure. And so on, sorry. So I'm in a folder. This particular one is just the quick access. Go to the desktop. Here are different files that I've got on here. This is a new file, my file, Northern Territory file. And so a couple of the things you should be aware of. One is that you can change how this looks. Some people really like icons. Some people really like lists. And I can go on here and I can change the view. I just did a right mouse click because all things can be solved by right mouse clicks. Anybody here see my great big fat Greek wedding? Everything can be solved with Windex, right? So right mouse click is the Windex of that movie. And so I did a right mouse click and I get a view and I can change it between extra large icons, which I never use it unless I'm looking at a folder with a bunch of pictures in it. And I want to be able to see what the pictures are. Large icons, medium icons, small icons. List. Now, the list is the same as small icons, except it does it in a vertical list. When one column is done, it'll go to a second column and bring it down. Small icons just listed across, one row at a time. That's really the only difference. Because you'll notice you still have the small icons here. View details, and this gives you the same list, but with the file type, the size of it, and what the date that it was created on. So those can be useful. I'm going to go and I'm going to leave it on list. If I want on my desktop, and I'm just going to move this over a little bit. I have no idea why there aren't more things on my desktop, because if you look at the desktop on this machine, what do you see? Are there more than 5 things? And even though a lot of those are shortcuts, this should show me shortcuts. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a right mouse click. And look, there's a new option down on that pop-up screen. One of those is to make a new folder. One is to make a new shortcut. One is to start a Word document, published document, text document, Excel worksheet, a new contact, a new bitmap image. So you've got some choices there. I've never started a new bitmap image off this, but you could. I'm just going to go to a new folder, and it just popped up right here. And it's called New Folder. I can change the name of that because at the moment, you'll see that it's highlighted, and I can just go in and type in Tom's Test Folder. It now has a name. I can also go over here, and I can do a rename. And I can pop in there and type in Tom's Second Test Folder. You can do whatever I want. I can go in here, inside the list, double click it, and it opens up that edit file name. Or I can just click it once, do a right mouse click, and get the rename. All of those will allow me to rename it. I'm gonna make one more folder. New folder. We'll make it Jim's test folder. Let's pick on somebody again. Now, I want to move Jim's test folder into Tom's test folder. All I have to do is click on it and drag it right up into Tom's test folder. Now, if I open that, there it is. That's all it takes to move things around. I can move this back out, but I can either drag it over here to the desktop, and there it is again. So I can move things around just by dragging them. I could also do this. I could go to Jim's test folder and do a cut. Go to Tom's test folder here and do a paste. And it just got moved again. So I can cut and paste folders just like I can files and inside the files. Control C, Control X, Control C, Control V. And if I'm on the desktop here, I'm not going to do this. I could do Control A, and it just highlighted all of the files on the desktop. If I go to the desktop folder and the file manager here, I can also do a Control A, and it highlights them there. So I've got the same set of controls pretty much that I'd have elsewhere. If I want to go into Tom's test folder, I'm going to start a new Word document. I'm just going to call it Tom's test Word document. There. If I click that to open it, guess what it's going to do? It's going to start Word to open up my new file. It's going to be empty. I cannot edit it out with a right mouse click, but I can start it, I can delete it, and I can work on it like that, but I can't actually edit it. The only place to edit a Word document is in Word, one of its many different flavors. Questions about that? So that is creating and renaming folders. Now, we can also go back. Let me just put something in here. This is what I like to do when I'm creating. I'm going to move to all Northern Territories Wikipedia. Let me just grab this. I need something, right? Now I'm going to go back over to Word. Blank document. I'm going to paste it in here. Now, in case you didn't notice, in Wikipedia, it's mostly links. A lot of links in there. I don't want the whole thing just being a pile of links. So I just want the text. I'm going to paste it special as text only. And what you probably didn't notice when we were over at Wikipedia, I didn't mean to, but it also grabbed all of the stuff on the right-hand margin. So I'm just going to go here, and I'm going to get rid of all of that. There we go. I have a simple over. And I'm going to save this. It's already got a name. It's not going to ask me for a new name. And I'm going to close it. Minimize this. I'm going to close that because I don't need it. So Word is not open now at all. And I can go here. I can do a right mouse click. And I can hit print. And it's going to open up Word temporarily, usually temporarily. Save the print output. That doesn't. Okay. I know what it is. Simply for the purpose of showing you something. So right now, if I go to, I'm back in Word, I've opened that file up. If I go to print, this is already set up to print to PDF. That's why it tried to save that file as a PDF when I went to print it, because the default's been set to print to PDF. All of your computers, except for the college ones, not this room, but if you're in a dorm someplace, they've taken off the print to PDF option. We had to ask them to put it back here. The purpose of printing to PDF is that I can share a Word document with somebody that I don't really want them to be editing. I just want them to have a PDF copy of it. Who remembers what PDF stands for?
To digital file?
Oh, so close. Not really good. Nothing?
It's been a while.
Do. Come on, Preston. Look it up on your phone. PDF is portable document format. A portable document file. It's available. I mean, I don't care what computer you have, you can open that sucker. And that's what it's for. So if you're trying to send a file to your third cousin on your mother's side who lives in Uzbekistan, and they don't speak English, they're using a Linux operating system running on a 1978 Apple computer. Who cares? Who knows? Send them a PDF and they'll be able to open it. Probably. I may have got a little extreme there on the example, but so I'm going to switch this back to, oh man, it took it off again. I was going to show you how easy it is to just print directly from your file menus and directories. I can just go to print. They've taken the printer that's right over there off of this, so I can't even show you printing it to that. But I would, if you're at home, just go to your file menu, I want to print it, hit print. Where this is really helpful is if I have 5 files in a folder that I want to print, and I don't want to open Word, go to the file menu, hit the print button, go through all the dialog boxes, then close it, then open the next one and go all the way through it. I can just select all of the ones I want in a folder, and while they're all highlighted, do a right mouse click and hit print. And it will print them all to your printer, one after another. The only thing you might have is if you have an error that would normally have popped up, it will still pop up, but it may mess up your batch print. Maybe you went through and made up, letters to your wedding, that you wanted to send to your 10 best friends, and so it's a kind of a mostly generic, but you changed each and every one of them, and now you're ready to print them out, and you just highlight all 10 of those files, hit print, and it's going to spit out all 10. You might print it out on cheap paper first, looks good, proofread it, and then put it in the really expensive paper, the one with the gold leaf on the edges of it, and then hit print a second time, and then have it print out on the fancy stuff. They do this at print shops all the time. Why? Because the finished product paper and the finished product cards that they use are 10 times more expensive than a piece of copier paper. All right. So let me go back to that Word document we had. I can go to File, and I can go to Save As. And I'm just going to put it in Tom's test folder here. So I'm ready to save this file, but I want to save it some other way. You'll notice that underneath the file name, I've got a drop-down selection of things that it allows me to save it as. Some of the options include a Word document, an older format Word document, a PDF, an XPS document, a web page, RTF, which is a rich text format, which this would look almost identical, but if you had, how to put that, we'll take a break in just a second.
We'll just call it that.
Well, it is a day. It's a Tuesday. So we've got the Word documents, which are doc or docx. The docx is the newer format that they've been using for probably about the past 10 years. Then you've got what they call a rich text format. Then you've got a text file. What I've got on the screen, well, what I had on the screen, which was just a bunch of text, it's going to look identical in all three of these. Text files cannot have bolding, underline, italics.
They're as plain as it gets.
They're as plain as it gets. Rich text formatting can now include things like bolding and stuff like that, but you can't put images in them. So it's just a rich text format. Gives you a little more flavor. And then you get into Word, which is really a complete Office suite that allows you to do a lot more with it. We live pretty much up here. And in terms of file sizes, you know, smallest all the way up to largest. But space on a computer nowadays is so cheap that nobody worries about it. There was a time when space on a computer hard drive or on a floppy disk was so critical that nobody wanted to use this stuff because, oh, I've got a floppy disk. I put 5 simple Word documents on it and I don't have any more space. Because it puts so much what they call metadata inside that file. And we don't have to worry about that. Rich text format was just someplace in between in the evolution of word processing documents. Why don't we take 5, and we'll come back up and wrap it up because I want to show you the getting ready to print those addresses and envelopes. 5. Go away and come back. I'm going to pause the recording. Remind me to turn it back on.
By me.
It's right there.
I can see it from here.
Okay.
Oh, you got glasses.
Anyway, so we're looking at.
I'm looking at a horrible angle here too. You think about this. I got a horrible angle. I can't remember.
I had to
Look at me. I am comfy.
All right, let's try to focus. We'll try to get out of here. So one of the options is just print it, and that way maybe I don't want to save an envelope with this letterhead. I just want to print the letterhead. I mean the envelope and be done with it, but I can also add it to the document.
I'm just gonna make a box. Just gonna make a box.
If I add it to the document, do you want to save the new return address as the default return address? No, not this time. Well, yeah, sure. So what it did was it inserted that file or that component of this file as an envelope. When I go to print, I will have the issue of 2 different size paper requirements in one document. So if I wanted to print this next week, I would probably just go, and this is one of the other things, I'll go into this page, I'll go to File, I'll go to Print, and I'd have to select a printer that's been set up for envelopes. Big offices sometimes will have a printer for doing envelopes. Smaller offices was, you know, you'll open the bypass tray, shove in some envelopes, and we print through that. But I'm going to just, you know, let's say we're going to do print to PDF. And then settings, print all pages or just print the current page. Well, I'm only going to print the current page to a printer that has envelopes set up in it. If I wanted to just print the letter, I'd select the letter and say just print that or print pages 2 to 3 or whatever it was I wanted. So that's how you select that. print current page, and if I hit print, it's going to open up a PDF. Just save it on my desktop here. Tom's test folder. And, open it. So that's what it would look like, actually printed out. So it puts the return address at the right place. There are specifications from the United States Postal Service where a return address is supposed to be on a number 10 envelope and where is, everything else. If I'm printing this out on other sized envelopes, I can set up that my envelope is a particular size. And is it going to print like this, or is it going to print landscape? Is it a number 10 envelope? Is it an 8.5 by 11 envelope? Whatever it is, I can tell that. As long as my printer can handle it, it'll feed that through. Questions? So, we also wanted to be able to new document. I'm going to go to mailings. A lot of the envelopes and the labels are all done at mailings. That's one of the top tabs on the menu bar. So if I select mailings and I want to do envelopes, I can go in here and if I had a profile set up in here, I could go in and select directly out of my Outlook directory. Your My EMCC, I believe, is an Outlook directory. So you could go and print to people that you have full profiles, addresses, and all that stuff. So yeah, Tom again. There it is. I could go back in again a second time and hit mailings, envelopes, do another one. Oops. What did I miss? Where is Good question. My train of thought derailed. I'll go look at the directions, but I want to get that again. Follow them. I think from the class last time I taught this, if you just follow the directions when printing the envelopes, one of them asks you to print like 3 envelopes in one document, and I'm trying to remember how to do that directly. I know how to do it individually, but not as a group. Let's do labels. Same thing here. Is anybody here work with labels?
I have like the cheap Avery ones that come with a little template.
Yep. Well, and trust me, that's what companies around the world do. So
We work with labels and registration.
yep. And so there's a number of ways that you can get them. You can make labels on a label printer, which literally spits out, every second another label on a peel-off roll, and you stick them on. Others, you'll get sheet by sheet. They'll have 30 of them on there, 3 rows by 10. And you can set them up to print everything the same or an address different for each of the different labels on there. If you're sending out to 1,000 people in registration, well, each one's going to be different. If you're trying to make out 500 of them because you want to put, Tom's Bakery Shop on every box that goes out the door, then I do them all the same. There were times when we didn't have return address envelopes that are already pre-printed, and we would just print out our return address. So when we're sticking on an address label, we'd stick on a return address label as well. Because the labels, believe it or not, were cheaper than printed envelopes. So it depended on what you're doing. If you've never tried to purchase pre-printed envelopes, go price them sometimes. You know, a box of envelopes from Staples or Amazon, plain white envelopes, probably cost you about $7, $8. Printed, they're 60, 70, $80. You know, just to put that print up in the corner. So yeah, and so sometimes small businesses will do something else. Almost anything is better than feeding envelopes through a printer. Trust me on that, because printers were not designed to print envelopes. They make ones that do, especially the ones that have a complete 180-degree turnaround roller. The ones that do best bring them in and spit them right out the backside, having printed them on their way through. They aren't required to bend the envelope around, because not only is the envelope 2 to 3 thicknesses thick, but it's also glued, which makes it more rigid than a piece of paper is, and it doesn't like to be bent around and printed on, especially if you've got one that's got a serpentine pathway through it, and you'll get clogs and jams all the time. So if I tell this thing I want the full page, the same label, I do that. If I want a single label, I pick this, but I can tell it which row and which label. If I've got one page that I'm using to print my labels out with, I've already used the top 6. I need to go to the 7th one. Well, that would be column 1, row 3. And so I can set it to go down, and it will print it on the next available one. It's just, that's why we switched to a one at a time printer, but you can do that. So if I go new document, I now have, oops, I thought I said all labels the same. It's not what it should have done. Give me a second. Maybe this whole page of the same label. Oh, that's probably why. If you notice down here, it tells me that it's using a Microsoft half letter postcard, meaning that literally half the page is all I'm going to print on. I'm going to switch it over to an Avery. Sorry, Avery. And we'll go with 50.
Oh, this has says the templates for the common label sheets you could buy.
Yep.
That's handy.
So like a 5160 is the Avery standard 3x10, so 30 per page label print. And so now I have full page of this, and it's going to be pre-sized for that page that I'm going to feed through. That way it's not going to be printing in the gaps between the labels. It's not going to try to print 12 labels down on the page when there's only 10 labels there. So all of this stuff is in there. If you've got some really esoteric brand of labels, guess what? You can override all of that and go in there and do it. But I'm going to just go ahead and hit new document. So I can print this, send it to the printer, but I'm going to just make a new document, and there it is. Everybody's all happy. Ready to go? Questions? Now there may be no school tomorrow, but there probably will be Thursday. So this is my plan, because I'm tired of this getting in the way. I'm going to plan on Thursday to be doing my classes from my office where everything works. But if you want to be in here and watching it on Zoom, that's fine. And you can yell in, hey, Tom, what about, you know, and it'd be like listening to Tom call from out there in the netherworld. So that's my plan, and I'll record it while I'm there, so if you don't make the class, it will be up on the YouTube channel, Computer Science, EMCC, just search for it, and then look for, well, yeah, if you go to YouTube and just type in EMCC Computer Science, you'll see our channel, then select a playlist for this class.
This chapter 6 become a great video.
Yes, that's the homework.
That's for Thursday.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
See you, Tom.
We'll see ya.